Very good afternoon, and thanks for clicking on to the Tuesday evening edition of the Tropical Outlook. A little bit late, but better late than never, as they say. And we have got the remnants of once Hurricane Beryl. Now it's moving through the upper Midwest here, continuing to spread its rain from South Texas all the way up into the northern tier of the lower 48. And eventually, what that will do is that will eventually become absorbed within the westerlies. You notice here that we do have got a little bit of a quieter looking Atlantic. We have a few blow ups over the north of South America through the Central America region here. Just typical thunderstorm activity that erupts over the afternoon period with strong daytime heating. We've got a weaker African wave train compared to what we've seen in recent times. And if we look at the latest from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, you can see here it's post-tropical cyclone Beryl, 30 mile per hour winds, 104 millibars, and it's moving in a northeasterly direction, caught up in the upper level westerlies, obviously now with the jet stream at 25 miles per hour. But you notice that there is no other area of interest within the Atlantic basin at the moment. Looking at the latest run of the GFS, and there is nothing really to write home about in terms of any imminent threats or future threats, really, to say, to be honest. You can see that we have a fairly strong Bermuda high at the moment here. Easterly winds directing some of these kind of weak waves off the African continent across the main development region of the Atlantic here, but nothing really standing out in terms of anything of concern or particular interest. And one of the reasons why that might be the case is that we have got less conducive environment overall. Actually, if we look at the global view here and the areas of rising versus sinking air, we, as expected, are seeing a less favourable overall environment, and therefore the expected quietening down of the Atlantic has now kicked in. Once Beryl moved onshore as an 80 mile per hour hurricane, thankfully it ran out of space because it was rapidly deepening as it made landfall in the Matagorda area of Texas back a couple of days ago, early hours of Monday morning to be exact. We've seen the system dropping 10 millibars on approach to the coast of Texas. If it had another 12 hours over the 29 Celsius waters with a reduction in wind shear and also the dry air kind of held on enough within the circulation to kind of suppress its re-intensification and reorganizing. But what happened was it managed to kind of shake off some of this dry air entrainment as it made a final approach in Texas. And thankfully, that dry air was probably the saving grace to stopping Beryl regain Category 3 or major status. And the impacts were significant over Texas, no question about that. If we happen to look at some of the stuff here, you can see the impacts that Beryl had on Texas as it moved onshore. Just bear with me a little second here to bring up some stuff here. So this was a tweet here. I'd actually kind of retweeted this, but they put a little comment on to say that dry air saved the day for Texas. This is from Florida tropics, and you can see that the system really did start to get its act together on final approach as it moved onto the Texas coast. I thought I could blow that up there, but I seem to have an issue doing that. Spreading some much needed rain into areas that are quite dry. This is a tweet here by Jim Cantori showing that we've seen a rapid decrease in moisture content and an increase in drought area across the eastern United States. And the hope was that we could spread some of this moisture from Beryl as it moved north into some of these very dry areas of the eastern seaboard here. And then another interesting tweet here by Jim's showing that the landfall at Matagorda, thank goodness this thing ran out of room. Look at the pressure drops on approach, and you could see that the pressure actually dropped from 987 to 979 millibars within the space of what I think this is probably what, an hour or two prior to landfall here. A 10 millibar drop is quite significant. And what happened was that we've seen the dry air become get displaced away from the core, and therefore it could really start to refire the inner core and really organize it quite dramatically. A couple of interesting tweets here, finally, by Phil Klotzbach, showing some interesting things. He always provides very useful and interesting statistics and general information on the tropics. Hence, he's obviously a tropical forecaster and the lead forecaster for the Colorado State University forecast. But the CSU's 7 analogs for July 2024 Atlantic hurricane season forecast 1886, 1926, 1933, 95, 05, 2010, and 2020 analogues are selected based on the likely La Nina and above normal sea surface temperatures in the tropical Atlantic for August through October. Sorry. Kind of just scooting through here. Another one here. While there has been slight anomalous cooling since last month, most of the North Atlantic remains much warmer than average, favouring a busy hurricane season. This anomalous warmth is the primary reason why CSU's seasonal hurricane forecast for 2024 is calling for such an active season. So everything still remains in place when it comes to a busy season, and despite the fact that we are seeing somewhat of a shutdown, and one of the main reasons for that is a less favourable MJO. We've got the majority of it over the southeast of Asia. We're seeing the ramping up of the Indian monsoon, but you can see here the sinking over the Americas and the Atlantic basin. So I did expect at the very end of June, beginning of July, to see a shutdown in the Atlantic. We are seeing that, but it's came a good bit. It's about generally a week later than I anticipated. But nonetheless, we are seeing a quietening down of the Atlantic basin. But this does not mean that it's going to stay this way. And I expect as we progress through the month and into particularly the peak time of the season, which obviously is from mid-August to early and mid-October, you would expect to see that MJO pulse come back into a favourable position within the planet. Hence, where we're going to start to see the Atlantic liven back up once again. So we'll need to keep monitoring this situation. There will be no tropical outlook between now and and Saturday. I will have a full update on the tropics on Saturday, all being well, if I've got the time, because I do have another trip to Inverness, unfortunately, to do. I'm actually getting my windscreen replaced because there was a stone came off a lorry and I need to get it replaced. I've got an MOT coming up at the end of the month and I need to get these jobs done. So it's a bit of a busy time, but nonetheless, I am going to continue to strive to deliver the very best, unique, unbiased, unhyped content here on Vogan Weather on YouTube. So like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time with more. Bye for now.